If you're selling your home this year and thinking about glossing over that old water stain in the basement, or how about forgetting to mention the neighbor's super aggressive dog foaming at the mouth so that you can get your home sold faster, stop. Here's the truth. Hiding issues does not protect your price. It really creates leverage for the buyer after they already own your house. And in 2026, the fastest way to lose money isn't a price reduction. It's a post-closing threat with an attorney attached. I always say this, most amateur sellers don't actually save money. I say it about FSBOs all the time. They actually donate it. And nothing donates money faster than a lawsuit or even the threat of one 6 months down the line, way after the closing happened, because a material fact wasn't disclosed up front on the seller's disclosure statement. Now, what I see every week here in West Michigan is the following. Deals that fall apart aren't usually because the house was bad. They fall apart because trust gets damaged, and disclosure is where trust either gets built or it gets absolutely destroyed. Today I'm walking you through the mandatory 2026 home sellers disclosure checklist. This isn't just about following the law. It's about protecting your equity, protecting your timeline, and protecting your peace of mind. I've been doing this a really long time, 25 years, and the single biggest mistake I see sellers make isn't pricing, it's disclosure. A lot of sellers treat the disclosure statement like it's a test. They think that the goal is to check no on every single box so the buyer pays more money. It doesn't work that way. That's actually backwards. The disclosure isn't a marketing piece, it's a risk document. And if you treat it like a strategy document instead of a confession, you'll actually win. Let me give you a real example that was tested under the pressure of the seller's disclosure. So I had a seller who completed the disclosure statement, and they wrote that the basement had never had water issues. The home was closed and the buyer moved in. Pretty normal stuff, but then the basement leaked about a few weeks later, but it leaked in a big way, and the buyer was able to determine it wasn't a first-time event. So now you've got a buyer who feels misled and has grounds to threaten legal action. No bueno. Instead of going to court, the seller agreed to pay the buyer's contractor to fix the problem, $8,000. And that's not saving money. That's donating equity. Here's a lesson. Had they disclosed the water history, the buyer wouldn't have had the same grounds to threaten legal action after the closing table. And second, this is the part most sellers miss entirely. If they just had disclosed it and gathered their own quotes for the repairs, they could have controlled the cost and the negotiation process. Something like, here are 3 quotes, pick the contractor, the one that you want, the one that looks best. Maybe the seller pays 50%. That's a managed negotiation, not a forced payoff. Truth travels far, so send it way ahead of you. I'm going to give you a simple framework that my sellers follow so that the disclosure becomes more of a shield instead of a trap. And I call it the S.O.L.D shield framework. Seems to make sense, right? S is you spot the material facts. O, over document repairs. L, list the invisible issues. And D, decide your repair strategy right up front before the buyers get involved. Here's the material fact standard. A material fact is anything that would affect reasonable buyers' decisions to buy the home or how much they would pay for the property. So if you're asking, well, Kevin, do I really need to mention the roof leaked 5 years ago if I fixed it? Yeah, you do. Disclose the leak, disclose the repair, attach receipts and warranties. And here's my rule. It's a simple one. If you have to ask if it's disclosable, it's disclosable. The cost of disclosing a past repair is usually zero. The cost of a buyer discovering it later can be legal fees, stress, and in extreme cases, huge financial consequences. Now, the physical systems checklist. These are the categories that trigger the most conflict in my 25 years experience. Water. Water is the enemy of real estate transactions. Past water in the basement, plumbing leaks behind walls, Grading issues, sump pump failures, we see it all. Disclose them, even if it happened during a once-in-a-lifetime storm or tsunamis. Buyers fear mold and repeat flooding. So when they find signs that you didn't disclose it, they don't just get cautious, they get angry. And angry buyers become motivated buyers for attorneys. Foundation and settlement. Hairline cracks can be normal, but painting over cracks or hiding signs of movement is where sellers get into big trouble. Disclose what you know. Let the inspections and the professionals determine severity. If you hide it, it really looks intentional and sometimes really awful. Next, HVAC, mechanicals, and roof age. In 2026, buyers are extra focused on age, efficiency, and remaining life. Do not guess ages. If you don't know, write unknown. Never estimate. A 5-year-old roof that's actually 12 creates liability and credibility problems. Now the invisible disclosures. These catch sellers off guard. HOA, special assessments, and neighborhood disputes, fence line disputes, ongoing complaints, special assessments, being discussed in the process of selling, even if you're not finalizing the sale, can matter. If there's a known potential cost or conflict, it belongs on the disclosure statement. Nuisances, noise, smells, flight paths, nearby uses. You might not notice the train anymore. The buyer will. If there's a known nuisance and they discover it later, they can claim misrepresentation. Lead-based paint built before 1978. This is a federal law. If the home was built before 78, the required lead-based paint disclosure and EPA pamphlet are not optional. Now let's talk about the strategic advantage of over-disclosure and your repair strategy right up front. This is the pro move most sellers skip. If you disclose an issue, water, roof, electrical, get your own quotes before the buyer does. This is super smart. I call this the repair leverage play. Disclose the issue early, provide the supporting documentation, get 2 to 3 quotes, and offer a structured solution. Repair, credit cap, or split costs. Why? Because the person with the quotes controls the conversation. And you want negotiation on your terms, not under the threat after closing. Or how about pre-closing? Disclose early, negotiate calmly, close clean. Now picture 2 timelines. Timeline 1, you under-disclose. The buyer finds something later on. Now it's emotional. They feel tricked. You're defending yourself. Your equity is at risk. And every phone call feels like a punch in the stomach. Timeline 2, you over-disclose with receipts and quotes. The buyer makes their decision with eyes completely wide open. Inspections confirm what they already expected. Negotiations are super boring in the very best way. You close, you move on. And your sale stays closed the way it's supposed to be. That's the goal, not just sold and safe. Here's what I want you to do in the next 24 hours if you're planning on selling. This is time boxed and a little bit uncomfortable. Set a 20-minute timer on your phone. Walk through your house with the buyer's eyes, not yours, and write down every single item you've ever wondered about, even one time. Water, roof, electrical, HVAC, neighborhood issues, HOA conversations, anything. That thing? Yes, that thing. And here's the uncomfortable part. Call one contractor and request a quote for the biggest maybe on your list, especially water. Not because you're committing to repair it today, but because you're taking back control. And that's where it belongs. If you want my exact seller's disclosure checklist in my team's S.O.L.D, the S.O.L.D Shield process, reach out and I will help you apply it to your home and your timeline. Want to sell without surprises? Book a seller strategy consultation and we'll review your disclosures, your repair options, and your pricing plan so that your home gets sold and stays sold. Visit S.O.L.D by Yoder.com.